So as you all remember, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe received the Booster Course Pass, a massive DLC of tracks and characters that doubled the game's course count. Well, now we have a brand new Mario Kart game, or at least some do, except for us poor people who can't afford a Switch 2. And despite this game having just come out, I thought it would be fun to think about, what if Mario Kart World received its own Booster Course Pass? So that's what I'm going to be creating in this video. So without any further ado, let's get started. Now obviously World is a bit different to past Mario Karts, as all of the courses are situated on a humongous map. So if the game was to get a BCP style DLC, it means they need to create an entirely new island. I don't think they would just use the same layout as the base game map, however for simplicity that's just what I used. This also meant I could pick all my choices based on their location on the map, meaning we wouldn't have any problems with diversity or repetition. So how this is going to work is I'll go through all the cups and then replace each track one by one, starting with the Mushroom Cup. To replace Mario Bros Circuit, I chose Mario Raceway. To replace Crown City, I chose Mushroom City. To replace Whistle Stop Summit, I chose Choco Island. And to replace DK Spaceport, I chose Super Bell Subway. Mario Bros Circuit is an interesting one because there isn't really another circuit track with the same theme, but I think Mario Raceway could be redesigned to have the desert aesthetic quite easily. I was originally considering using Mushroom Bridge to replace Crown City, but I decided on Mushroom City, because I think it's finally time this course gets the spotlight. And this course would also get multiple routes, maybe Bridge could be incorporated in that way. Whistle Stop Summit, I was really struggling to think of a replacement. My first choice was Calamari Desert, because of the track's geological placement, but that would be quite crappy, so I ended up with Choco Island, which is actually already in World as a P-Switch mission, but it could be repurposed into an actual track quite easily. Maybe they redesign it to give it a train theme similar to Whistle Stop Summit. And lastly, DK Spaceport. Again, this track is very unique, so I couldn't find a direct replacement, but I settled on Super Bell Subway. I don't know, maybe have it linked to a long train track that goes across the water? Yeah. So there we have our brand new Mushroom Cup, although it would be called the Golden Dash Cup now, and I think it's a pretty solid cup overall. Next up is the Flower Cup, which will be renamed to the Lucky Cat Cup. This was surprisingly difficult as most of these are desert tracks, so I felt like I was scraping the bottom of the barrel with some picks, but I got there eventually. To replace Desert Hills, I chose Dry Ruins. To replace Shy Guy Bazaar, I chose Yoshi Desert. To replace Wario Stadium, I chose Waluigi Stadium. And to replace Airship Fortress, I chose Ninja Hideaway. Dry Ruins is a very underrated Wii track in my opinion. It got a very nice remake and tour, and it was the only Wii course from that game to not get added to the BCP, so I think it finally deserves a chance to shine. I'm also a bit confused at why they chose Desert Hills for the base game instead of this, but whatever. Yoshi Desert is another track I feel gets overlooked, and I thought it was a good replacement for Shy Guy Bazaar as they both have Arabian theming. Also the music would just absolutely slap. Oddly enough, there are no GBA tracks in World, so I made sure to pick more for potential DLC. I kind of just chose Waluigi Stadium because I couldn't think of another track that is like Wario Stadium. It's also my favourite GCN course, so I may be a bit biased towards it. Although the rail grinding could be incorporated quite cleverly, like how it was in Wario Stadium. Now Ninja Hideaway instead of Airship Fortress probably makes no sense, but hear me out. I think this course would look absolutely stunning if they gave it a lava or just dark and evil theme. The course is themed after Wario, but they could redesign it to be a Bowser track, or something along that lines. So there we have the Lucky Cat Cup. I think this is a killer lineup, just like the base game's Flower Cup. Even Yoshi Desert could be really fun. Next is the Star Cup, which is the complete opposite to the Flower Cup as it mostly is ice tracks. This cup would become the Turnip Cup, and I found it a lot easier to come up with than the Lucky Cat Cup. To replace DK Pass, I chose Vanilla Lake. To replace Starview Peak, I chose Frappe Snowland. To replace Sky High Sundae, I chose Ice Ice Outpost. And to replace Wario Shipyard, I chose Cheap Cheap Lagoon. Vanilla Lake is another track which is a P-Switch mission, but I would really love if they just went all out with this course, like what they did for Bowser Castle 3 and Tour. The course is dying for it. I think the most logical replacement for Starview Peak would be Rosalina's Ice World, however I feel like Frappe Snowland deserves the spotlight. If they do for this course what they did for DK Pass, then I think it can end up being a very good track. Because of the placement of Sky High Sundae, I needed a track that is situated at sea, and I think Ice Ice Outpost fits that criteria quite well. This is another track that would benefit very well from rail grinding and wall riding, probably even more so than Waluigi Stadium. And lastly, Cheap Cheap Lagoon. I think if they were to redesign this course to be a dark, stormy course like Wario Shipyard, then it could end up being quite fun. The course does mostly take place underwater, but so did Wario Shipyard and they managed to make that work. So there we have the Turnip Cup. Again, a very nice selection and the tracks all complement each other well. Next is the Shell Cup, rebranded as the Propeller Cup, which we only need to predict 3 courses as Mushroom City would have its second layout here. I think one of the choices will probably ruffle some feathers. To replace Koopa Troopa Beach, I chose N64 Koopa Troopa Beach. To replace Faraway Oasis, I chose Lakeside Park. And to replace Peach Stadium, I chose Luigi Circuit, the Wii version in particular. I don't really have much to say about Koopa Troopa Beach, although they did make the SNES version actually very good. The beach raving theme worked well, so they could probably repeat it again for the N64 version. For Lakeside Park, again it's another underrated track that didn't make it into the BCP, and if they gave it a Savannah-like theme similar to Faraway Oasis, then it could be a really nice track. Maybe for one of the laps you go inside or near the volcano. Now I know Luigi's Circuit might sound ridiculous, but Peach Stadium's shell cup layout is just a square, so it's at least better than that. Also, this track will get a new variant later on in the Special Cup, which obviously would be a lot more entertaining. I was considering using the GCN Luigi's Circuit instead, but I felt like the Wii version was more deserving of a makeover. So there we have our Propeller Cup. It is on the more basic side, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Not every cup needs to be banger after banger. Next is the Banana Cup, which I have to say looks like one of the best cups in the game. Not a single bad track here, and this is going to be rebranded to the Rock Cup. To replace Peach Beach, I chose Daisy Cruiser. To replace Salty Salty Speedway, I chose Delfino Square. To replace Dino Dino Jungle, I chose DK's Jungle Parkway. And to replace Great Question Bullock Ruins, I chose Sky Garden. I was struggling to think of a replacement for Peach Beach as I felt like I'd run out of beach tracks, so I settled on Daisy Cruiser. But hey, Peach Beach got a completely redesign and a new layout, so they could do that for Daisy Cruiser. Maybe Daisy got extra rich and has purchased multiple cruise ships. Delfino Square is a very popular track that I know a lot of people were bummed out over as it didn't appear in the BCP, and I don't think there's any other track that is as good of a replacement for Salty Salty Speedway, so it turned out perfect in the end. DK's Jungle Parkway is a track I feel is dying for a glow up. The course is just so boring and unfun to drive. I thought it was a more logical option than DK Mountain. Maybe for one of the laps you drive down the river, but that's how you'll get to the course from an intermission. I didn't really want to add Sky Garden, but the only other track I could think of that takes place high in the sky is Cloudtop Cruise, but that doesn't really fit either. However, if they actually make the layout faithful to the original instead of whatever this is, then I think most people would be happy. So there we have the Propeller Cup, again an absolutely stellar lineup. Let's just hope they actually make DK's Jungle Parkway a good track though. Next we have the Leaf Cup, which was a nice breath of fresh air as all of these tracks are different aesthetics, so I didn't need to go looking for 4 tracks with the same theme. And this will be renamed to the Moon Cup. To replace Cheap Cheap Falls, I chose Daisy Hills. To replace Dandelion Depths, I chose Mushroom Gorge. To replace Boo Cinema, I chose Luigi's Mansion. And to replace Dry Bones Burnout, I chose Bone Dry Dunes. Again, Daisy Hills instead of Cheap Cheap Falls probably makes no sense. The Cheap Cheap Falls location on the map is quite random, an orangey autumn track surrounded by grass. You could argue Maple Treewood would make more sense, however I think Daisy Hills could be more easily reworked to have the dojo or East Asian theming of Cheap Cheap Falls. Dandelion Depths is another course I was struggling to find a replacement for, and I chose Mushroom Gorge because when I was looking at the courses page on the Mario Wiki, it said the course was similar to Mushroom Gorge, so that's why. For Boo Cinema, I was originally considering using Twisted Mansion, however that meant I had too many Mario Kart 8 tracks, so I chose Luigi's Mansion instead. Maybe for a section of the course you go inside the painting that Mario gets trapped in, and then everything around you will become warped and funky. Lastly, for Dry Bones Burnout, the only other option I could think of was a Bowser Castle, but it would be kinda awkward if there was just 2 Bowser Castles in the map, so I went with the next best choice, Bone Dry Dunes. Maybe they could rework it to have a darker lava theme. So there we have the Moon Cup. I know it might be a bit basic for being the Leaf Cup equivalent, 3 of the courses are from the Mushroom Cup, but I'm sure they could work to make them all fun tracks. Now we move on to the penultimate cup, the Lightning Cup, which I just have to say, this course selection is absolutely ludicrous. 2 Mushroom Cups from Mario Kart Wii, and Moo Moo Meadows again? Seriously? Anyways, this will become the Fruit Cup. To replace Moo Moo Meadows, I chose Piranha Plant Pipeline. To replace Choco Mountain, I chose Wario Coliseum. To replace Toad's Factory, I chose Coconut Mall. And to replace Bowser Castle, I chose 3DS Bowser Castle. Piranha Plant Pipeline has gotten booted out twice now, from the BCP and now the base game, so I would say it's higher priority than any other track. They even remixed the course's music for the base game, so it's not like they've just forgotten the course exists. Choco Mountain is another track I was really struggling to find a replacement for, as I've already used Choco Island, so I settled on Wario Coliseum. On the map, the course is situated kind of on the border between the desert and the dark and lava area, so maybe the course could act like a gateway between the two. Coconut Mall is another pick that probably makes no sense, however I genuinely think if they made this a construction track like Toad's Factory, then it could be quite interesting. This will be the course's 5th game in a row, so I think it's time for an overhaul. The reason I chose 3DS Bowser Castle in particular is because the base game's Bowser Castle is in the middle of a giant lava lake, or it's surrounded by lava on all sides, like 3DS Bowser Castle. I also think rail grinding and wall riding could be implemented quite cleverly. So there we have the Fruit Cup. I think it's a much better selection than what the Lightning Cup is. I just really hope they can work to make Piranha Plant Pipeline a better track, so people who maybe weren't impressed by the 2 version can warm up to it. Last but certainly not least, the Special Cup, which once again will only need to predict 3 courses as Luigi's Circuit would have its second layout here. This will become the Boomerang Cup, and I tried to choose the best courses possible to ensure it was the perfect send-off. To replace Acorn Heights, I chose Wild Woods. To replace Mario Circuit, I chose Mario Circuit 4. And to replace Rainbow Road, I chose DS Rainbow Road. Wild Woods could be a little difficult to add because of the giant vertical tree at the start, but this course is really fun to drive and would benefit from the Nunuk gimmicks very well, hence why I chose it. Aside from Bowser Castle 1 and 2, Mario Circuit 4 is the only SNES track to not have appeared since Super Circuit, and the amount of times it's been glossed over is almost comical, so I hope they go all out with this track, on the same level as Bowser Castle 3, so the course can finally get the justice it deserves. The reason I chose DS Rainbow Road in particular is honestly just because I like it the most. I don't think it has to be GBA due to SNES and N64 being remade back to back. We kind of broke that pattern with the BCP. Also, GBA, GCN and Mario Kart 8's Rainbow Roads are all kind of boring, so DS was my go-to option. So there we have the Boomerang Cup, and now all 30 tracks in total. I like this selection a lot as it finally allows many courses that have been overshadowed to have a chance in the spotlight, and tracks that have before can be reinvented in ways I think most people wouldn't have thought possible. Now there's only one thing left to do, which is the rallies. Again, these will be the same layouts as the base games, just the cups and obviously the tracks are different, and I shall let these play on screen now. And there we have it, the Mario Kart World Booster Course Pass. This was super fun to make, and I really do hope we get something like this as DLC. Let me know in the comments if you agree with my picks or not. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!